Hello, my name is Alicia Jackson Hall. I am a middle and high school special education teacher in the alternative setting in our district in Southeast Georgia. I am also a student in the Tier 1 Ed Leadership Certification Program at Georgia Southern University. Today, I'm going to give a brief overview of the textbook Shared Data and Shared Decisions by author Jason Williams. I am going to share how this book has helped me, a person who was never really comfortable with data, appreciate data a little more. I'm going to explain how this book emphasizes collaborative data practices that can improve student outcomes in my school as well as yours. Let's go. Now, as I stated, I have not always been comfortable with data. I've not always been comfortable with data discussions, and that's for a number of reasons. As a special education teacher, whenever PLCs were scheduled to discuss data information, they would always say, okay, let's look for the bright stars and then discuss the valleys. I always knew who would be a topic of the valley discussions, and most of the times, the students in the valley were the students with disabilities. Our book tells us that shared ownership improves student outcomes. Well, as the SPED co-teacher for the longest time, whenever we talked about the valleys, no one wanted to share ownership. No one. So, the very thing that Williams emphasizes in this book, which is moving away from isolated data decision making toward collaborative teams, is the very thing that was never done during my early introduction to data. Now, our department would regularly examine data together, but we failed to share the responsibility. So, as a ninth year alternative teacher, we share everything in this setting. Our student population is small, our staff is small, so we rely heavily on one another in numerous ways. We do whatever it takes to make it work for the success of our students. Another good thing in our building is that our teacher retention is high. Very seldom do we have teachers to leave, and that's a good thing. So, over the years, we have become very, very tight-knit. We have also began enrolling what really hasn't been the norm for alternative settings. Most students are placed at the alternative setting because of punitive reasons. Well, in the last few years, we began enrolling honor students and even some gifted students. And with this change in our population, those gifted and honor students do not play about their academics. So guess what? They came into our building with the expectation that we didn't play about academics. So, to make sure we were prepared to serve these students, we began demanding more academic data for our students. And we began demanding it for all of our students, even the ones that weren't honor students or gifted students. And again, data, though it was never my thing, with a staff that did not mind sharing the responsibility for student success and failures, our school has become a little bit more responsive to a lot more responsive to students' needs, which means give us all the data so we can help our students achieve while they are assigned to our building. So, I just gave you a brief peek into my relationship with data. Now I'll share how shared data and shared decision, this book, has made me excited about the upcoming school year and how data will be implemented in our building. When we move away from simply collecting data for compliance, we can effectively use evidence to improve instruction and student support. Dr. Barton provided the class an opportunity to have a conversation with the author, Jason Williams, and I loved it. It was a relaxing and informative talk. He actually brought the book to life. Many of the students asked several questions, but I asked the question, what qualities make a healthy data culture in a school? His response to me was, and in so many words, he said, effective schools never stop after collecting data. The real work begins when teams analyze findings and adjust practices. It is a repeating cycle. So, you collect the data, you analyze the data, you collaborate with other teachers, you plan and plan and plan, implement strategies, monitor the progress, then do it all over again. So, how am I able to apply what I have learned from shared data and shared decisions with my population of students with academic, behavioral, and social emotional challenges, and a high percentage of students with IEPs? I'll tell you how. I understand and I accept that data does not define my students. Data is merely a symptom of the true issue. Data is not the whole story, but a part of an ongoing process to find what works best for my students. My data project for this class was implementing a transitional wraparound program. The intent of the program is to ensure that students moving to and from the alternative school in their home schools will have a smooth transition and receive all necessary support to achieve success. And what I will need to ensure all students' needs are in place is what? Data. Data to give a starting point to what is needed for the students. The bridge between the book and my action plan is how I can use data to monitor attendance, behavior referrals, IEP progress, academic performance, etc. Data can be used in all of these areas. Again, that's one more takeaway from the book. No single data point tells the whole story. Shared data provides a complete picture of student success. When using data to inform and make decisions, all stakeholders are entitled to the information that is gathered. That means data is shared with administrators, data is shared with special education teachers, data is shared with general education teachers, data is shared with counselors, data is shared with social workers, parents, and in our building, we share data with our students. It is a talking piece. We have gotten to the point where we post data. We don't post the names, but we give the students a visual of what to look for. We give the students a visual of the goals that we are trying to reach. And this helps our students lock in, press forward, and know exactly what they need to do to reach and achieve their own academic goals. The alternative education students often require support from multiple individuals and/or agencies. When each team member works from the same information, we can identify concerns more quickly and respond with coordinated interventions rather than isolated efforts. Shared data reduces duplicated services, it improves communication among stakeholders, and it creates a more seamless support system for students and families. Ultimately, this collaborative approach increases student engagement, it strengthens family partnerships, and improves outcomes by ensuring that every decision is informed by accurate, timely, well thought out, and meaningful data. Now, while collaborative data practices offer tremendous benefits, implementation is not without challenges. Effective collaboration requires trust, open communication, and a shared commitment to student success. And we have that in our building. Team members must also understand their responsibilities for protecting student confidentiality while using data responsibly. Time constraints, inconsistent communication, and varying levels of data literacy can hinder collaboration if they are not intentionally addressed. School leaders play a critical role in establishing clear expectations, creating structured opportunities for collaboration, and fostering a culture where data is viewed as a tool for support and continuous improvement rather than evaluation. Let me place emphasis on fostering a culture where data is viewed. Leaders, if your team, if your staff does not have the culture created in the building where data is viewed as a tool, that needs to be a priority on your list in the upcoming school year. Have a culture where data is viewed as a tool for student support and continuous improvement. My initiative is not successful simply because the meetings occurred. Success was measured by improved student outcomes and stronger collaboration. By monitoring transition data, intervention implementation, attendance, behavior, academic performance, and family engagement, teams can continuously evaluate and refine the wraparound transitional program. When we intentionally share data and work together, we should see measurable improvements not only in student outcomes, but also in our teams, in how our teams function. The author, Jason Williams, emphasizes that healthy data cultures are built on relationships rather than compliance. As a future school leader, my responsibility is to create systems where staff members feel safe, using data collaboratively to improve outcomes. Leadership means creating the conditions for collaboration, not simply monitoring results. Ultimately, leadership is not about collecting more data. It is about helping my staff, helping people, helping stakeholders use data together to improve outcomes for students. When data is shared with purpose, decisions become collaborative, interventions become intentional, and every student has a greater opportunity for success. I enjoyed this book, and again, as an aspiring school leader, I am committed to using collaborative data practices to ensure every student has the support needed to successfully transition and thrive. I give shared data and shared decisions 5 stars. Good luck to you in your school year in implementing data.